Well, Hawkeyes are Big Ten tournament champions again. Lisa Bluter leads the Hawkeyes to a 74-67 victory over the Indiana Hoosiers, and it is time to celebrate for these women who are on a roll right now. I mean, when's the last time you could say that the men and the women are playing their best basketball in March? And that is absolutely the case. I never was really nervous during this game. I understand Indiana made a push, it was Indiana was up early. And of course, beginning of that second half, the Hoosiers got off to a nice start and took the lead, but it just never really felt to me like Indiana was going to win this game. And what a victory for the Hawkeyes. I'm going to open up the call line here in a second. For anybody who wants to give us a call, you know the number, 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. Let me make sure we're all set before we take our first call here. All right. I think we are good to go. Going to run through the stats as I throw the number there up on the bottom ticker. Again, what a great effort by this team. Caitlin Clark, you could argue not the star today. Not the star today. Caitlin Clark with kind of a modest output, 18 points and 7 boards in Indiana. They've had their practice in defending Caitlin Clark, and certainly Indiana has proven itself to be one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the Big Ten Conference. They were on top of the Big Ten regular season for much of the year. They get back to the championship game as a 5 seed, and they push the Hawkeyes. But Iowa's one of the hottest teams in the country right now, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country. Iowa wins a share of the regular season title, and they win the Big Ten tournament championship. So again, Caitlin Clark with 18 points, 7 rebounds. Monica Sinano, how about Monica? 30 points, 10 boards for Iowa's big. And boy, she was tremendous. It just seems like she has learned so much from Megan Gustafson. And I don't want to give Megan all the credit, but you just see so much of Megan. I've admired that about Monica throughout her career. We're going to get her back for another year, and certainly having her is huge heading into the big dance. Let's take our first call here. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hello, Corey. It's the real MVP.
Hello, sir. Doing? I'm pretty good. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. This is the hottest teams in women's basketball calling you.
I know.
You said you guys were one of the hottest.
I know. Kentucky beat South Carolina. Are they going to make the tournament? Well, no.
What do you mean? Are we going to make the tournament?
Are they going to? I know they won the champ. They won the SEC championship. Of course, yes, I know they're going to make the tournament. Would they have made the tournament without the win today?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We all we did was we beat number 6 in the first round. Then we beat number 14 in the round after that. I'm pretty sure what those games were at.
Yeah, you're probably
right. And then
right.
we just beat the number. And then today we just beat the consensus number 1 team in the country. Nothing, not a big deal.
And what a comeback in the final minutes of that game.
Oh yeah, that was a heck of a ball game. So was this game, Indiana, Iowa. That was a heck of a game. I mean, congrats first off, Corey, on winning the Big Ten title. How does it feel?
Well, it's great, and we've seen Lisa Bluter kind of unlock the keys to success in postseason play. I mean, let's be honest. This is something that Fran McCaffrey, as of yet, has struggled to do. We know Fran hasn't gotten Iowa back to the Sweet 16. They haven't been there since 1999. Iowa's never won more than 1 game. I'm talking about the men now. Haven't won more than 1 game in a Big Ten tournament since 2006, I believe. Lisa Bluter is leading the way for the Iowa men and women, and hopefully the men follow suit. But no, it feels great, and what a way to be. I know you can't say consensus Big Ten champions because they did share the regular season title, but this is just such a great thing for a young team. I mean, Caitlin Clark is young. I know Monica Sinano's a 4th-year girl, but she'll be back next year. It's going to be another fun year, and boy, we still got the tournament in front of us.
Oh yeah, that's a great thing. Is it now? As somebody who watches the game, is it fair to say that Caitlin Clark, I don't want to say struggled, but by her standards, she didn't play as well as expected today?
No, you're right. Absolutely. And that's what I alluded to earlier. I mean, the performance they needed all 30 from Monica Sinano, and Kate Martin had a down semifinal, but she comes back with tremendous numbers. I mean, I think I said this after the Northwestern game 2 nights ago. I think Kate Martin has an opportunity, especially after Sonano leaves. Because what year is Kate Martin in right now? I'd have to look back at her, how long she's been here. But she's got an opportunity next year, regardless of who's here, to really take a jump. And she kind of reminds me a little bit of Kathleen Doyle. Now, maybe the Iowa women's basketball savants on here who are listening are going to call me crazy. Kate is a redshirt junior, so I believe she's got 2 years of eligibility left if she wants them. But Kathleen Doyle, she's got something with Kathleen Doyle in her, and she's fun to watch. She's got an opportunity to really create a three-headed monster next year. And then again, you assume that O'Grady is going to develop, and this is going to be a fun team for the next couple of years. I mean, it's going to be a fun team until Caitlin Clark moves on, because she just raises the level of everybody around her.
So my next question for you, Corey, is what do you think the expectations for Iowa should be in the tournament?
The expectations, I mean, they're going to be a 3. I think we can both agree, real MVP. They're going to be a 3 seed, right? I mean, I don't think they're going to get to that 2 line.
I would say so.
They're not going to get to the 2 line, but they're going to be a 3 seed. No. I would be surprised if they're not. I think there'd be a 3 seed. So, I mean, they should make it to the Sweet 16 if you're just looking at seeds. I think they've got a chance to make it further. It just depends on draws. I always say, let's wait to see what the bracket says, sir. I mean, once we see the bracket, and I'm not nearly as invested in Iowa women's basketball as maybe some of our listeners are. So I'm not going to be able to tell you every team. I think I do pretty well with the men's bracket, but I'm going to have to really do my due diligence on researching some of these out-of-conference teams, because I haven't watched a whole lot of women's college basketball with the exception of the Big Ten. So, but it all depends on matchup. And, again, as I've said, matchups specifically for Caitlin are huge. If she gets a long, rangy defender, we saw Indiana really do well. And Indiana's not real athletic, but you get some of these physical and athletic teams that are long can cause her problems. If Kate Martin doesn't produce you 14 points, 8 assists, 4 boards, and Monica Sonano doesn't give you 30 and 10, Iowa can lose. But there aren't a lot of teams out there that I think can do that. And that's the good news for Iowa right now.
Okay. And in terms of I'm going to switch gears to the men's side for a bit. Now, it seems like for the men, Iowa's going to have to play Rutgers. Is that kind of a downside because they're not going to get that quad one win in their first game?
Yeah, you see somebody tweeted about this on the show earlier. So I'll just answer it briefly, and then we can get back to the men. Or the women. I don't believe that's a negative. So Iowa will likely play. I believe, are they locked into playing Rutgers? Now, I don't know who has a tiebreaker between Ohio State and Rutgers, because if Iowa loses tonight, it's a 3-way tie. And I'm assuming that Rutgers, because it sounds, but from what I've heard, I haven't looked at the head-to-head between the 3 teams, but it sounds like Rutgers would be the 4 seed, and then Iowa would be the 5 seed. So they'd play them anyways. Is that correct? Am I correct in saying that?
I do not know. I'm
asking you. I'm supposed to be the one that knows. But no, I think that's the way it works. And Rutgers, of course, winning, Ohio State losing. Yep. So I believe Rutgers would be the 5 seed. So if Iowa wins tonight, I believe
Rutgers has the tiebreaker because they beat Ohio State this year.
Okay, so
they beat Iowa.
Right, but if Iowa wins tonight, they're locked into the 4. Iowa is locked into the 4. So what I'm saying is then you've got a 2-way tie for 5th place, and I don't know, did Ohio State and Rutgers play twice? I could look that up, but, we can talk about that later as well. But my point is, I'm more concerned with a good draw because I want to see Iowa win in the Big Ten tournament. I want to see the Iowa men do what the Iowa women just did. I'm tired of not having been able to watch 2 good Iowa performances in the Big Ten tournament in 16 years. I was 10 years old the last time they won 2 games. Think about that for a second.
Yeah. Well, I'll switch back to the women. Now, does it bother you that for the Iowa women's team, they only shot 14% from 3? Is that a concern for you?
No, because they won in spite of it. I mean, that's if anything, it's a positive because I don't see Caitlin Clark. What was she from 3? She was like 1 for 7. 1 of 7. Yeah, she's not going to do that. I mean, very rarely is she going to produce a 1 for 7. If they can beat Indiana on neutral court going 1 for 7 with their best player, with Caitlin Clark, and from 3, I feel pretty good. That's just not going to happen very often. So no, if anything, it's an encouragement.
And just in terms of the women's bracket as a whole, because of my Cats beating South Carolina, is it more open for multiple champions? Because like 2 days ago, I said South Carolina probably the champion for sure, but it feels more open now.
Absolutely.
For a lot of teams to win it.
And I keep saying I'm high on Baylor. I still believe in Baylor. But no, South Carolina looks mortal. And I'm not saying Iowa can go win a national title, but there are teams, certainly. It doesn't look like it's as top heavy. I think that's what you're getting at. It does not look as top heavy as it has in past seasons. That's true.
Right. Well,
that's a good thing.
It was hard this year because outside of South Carolina, it was really competitive. But with South Carolina, they beat Stanford, they beat NC State in either an amazing comeback or a convincing win. So it was kind of hard for anybody to see anybody other than South Carolina winning it. But after Kentucky today beat them and did it in a way where Boston kind of had the same struggle Clark did, where she didn't do as well as expected. Now, she had a good game by most people's standards, but
yeah,
I think if you're in Iowa, if you're a UConn, if you're a Baylor, you look at this game, you see a blueprint to beat them. And I think that gives a lot of teams hope and a lot of fan bases hope.
I agree with you.
And the final thing I'll say before we go is, was it nice to see that many people in the stands for a women's game? I mean, there was a lot of people there.
Well, Iowa just sold out their final game of the season in Iowa City a week ago. So, I mean, that's 15,500, over 15,000 people in Carver. The Iowa fan base is passionate. And I'm not saying there were a lot of it. Part of that is, too, you got to think about this, Darryl MVP. You've got a home state team in Indiana, and then you've got an Iowa fan base that travels. So, but yeah, no, it is. It's great for the sport. And the other thing that's great for the sport is the fact that it's not as top heavy this year. That's great for the sport. I'm looking forward to the women's tournament more than I have in years.
Oh, absolutely. Because it was mainly just UConn and then everybody else.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case anymore.
Oh, no. UConn hasn't won in 5 years, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Corey, that's all I got for you tonight. Congrats on the Big Ten title and the women's side. Hopefully you can get one for the men's side as well.
Wouldn't that be great? All right, man. Appreciate the call. We'll talk to you later.
No problem.
All right. Call line is open. For anybody who wants to give us a call, 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. The Iowa Hawkeye women are Big Ten tournament champions and Big Ten regular season champions, and they are absolutely going to be hosting. They are absolutely going to be a top 16 seed. There's no question about that. The question is, could they find their way onto the 2 line? I don't believe they are. I think they're right square in the middle, maybe a lower half. In other words, the overall, what would that be? Overall number 10, 11, 12. I don't think they're going to be the 13th best team. I think they will be a 3 seed in the tournament. But again, I'm no bracketologist, especially as it relates to the women. But this team can beat a lot of teams right now playing the way they are. And imagine if Caitlin Clark, this is one, I'd have to look back at the stat sheets. This is one of her poorest performances from a box score perspective all year. And yet Iowa still beat one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the Big Ten. And did so, I think, rather convincingly. Yes, it was somewhat close throughout, but I just never really felt like the game was in doubt. Getting back to our chat here. Appreciate seeing everybody. Jennifer on here. Doug. Destiny Pirate. The Real Hayden. Lemansky. Doug. Appreciate everybody being on here. Ray, thank you for this. Appreciate this super chat from Ray Zirkelbach. He says, Corey, congrats on the 1,000 subscribers. You've provided so much knowledge and entertainment this past year. Well, the knowledge part, I appreciate you saying. You're going to attest to that. You're going to own that, Ray. The entertainment part, I think, is probably true. I give a lot of credit to Don Patterson and to Coach Close and J.R. Koch and Jess Settles and the different personalities we've had on the show. But thank you for this $5 super chat, Ray, and appreciate you being on here this afternoon. Everybody's always in a much better mood when Iowa wins. Funny how that works. The Real Hayden says there are a lot of similarities between Kathleen Doyle and Kate Martin, but Doyle was definitely more offensive minded. But see, that's the thing. The Real Hayden, these last couple games, 2 of the last 3 games, I'm starting to see a little bit more of that offensive mindset. But you're right. and Kathleen Doyle was a Big Ten Player of the Year. So I'm not going to jump to that conclusion as of yet, but I just like what I see. And boy, how can you be upset with almost anything right now as an Iowa basketball fan? Because you've got the women who are literally champions of the regular season and the Big Ten tournament. You've got the men who are playing their best basketball, playing defense finally. And I think Keegan Murray is right now a lottery pick, which only helps recruiting moving forward. You got Joe Wieskamp, who just signed his contract in the NBA was just elevated to a regular NBA contract, which is, again, good for recruiting and him. I think Luka Garza, I think he's got a regular contract. But both those guys are going to continue to play in the G League at times. But if they can continue to solidify themselves and their place in the league, that only helps on the recruiting trail. Doug says the Elite Eight should be the goal for the women. I have no problem with that goal. That's a lofty goal. If Iowa loses short of the Elite Eight, I'm not going to, raise Cain, but certainly this team can do that. Let's see what the matchups are. And certainly people want championships. I understand this from DR. DR says a 2 seed. We're going to see a 2 seed. Like I said, I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think it'll happen, but I would not rule it out as of right now. If the committee looks at this Big Ten tournament and sees 3 rather convincing wins. I know Northwestern and Indiana were close at times, but like the Nebraska game was never really in doubt late. And then you weigh the fact that Caitlin Clark just didn't play that well. Iowa's as hot of a team as you can have right now. Darrell MVP brought up Kentucky. They're hot as well, winning the SEC title and beating the number 1 team in the country. But absolutely believe they could be a 2. It'd be a low T, but they could be a 2. Doug says Iowa wins. They are the 4 they need to win. Yeah, he's talking about the men. So, yes, they are a 4 if they win. They lose, they are a 5. They're not going to be a 6, which is, I think, good news. Yes, if you were a 6, you'd potentially get Purdue in the next round, which is a potential quad 1 win. But from a fan's perspective, I want to see Iowa win in the Big Ten tournament. We can talk about seeding in the NCAAs. I want to see Iowa win a couple games in the Big Ten tournament, potentially do what the Iowa women just did. I hope the Iowa men look at what just happened and use this as motivation. That would be fantastic. Make no mistake, it was more of a home game for Indiana. Tough shooting night won't happen much again, in my opinion. Agreed. Eric says, this is Eric B's son. It was nice to see Monica Sinano step up when Caitlin isn't scoring 40. Thank you, Eric B's son. Absolutely. Monica Sinano continues to impress. And I've said this for a long time. Monica is not Megan Gustafson. She doesn't try to be Megan Gustafson, but I do believe that Megan taught her a lot. You can see her understanding of angles on the basketball court. And I was always amazed at how Megan could seem to find the glass and use the glass to her advantage better than any man or woman that I've ever watched play basketball, really. And maybe I just don't have a vast enough knowledge, but we see the same thing now out of Sinano. And certainly she is Robin to Caitlin Clark's Batman. Those two work just tremendously well and in unison. It's a wonderful thing to watch. Lemansky, most fans at Iowa women's game today in 20 years. Great event for Indy. The real MVP says they're not going to be a 2 seed. Let's just wait and see on that. But fans can hope. And certainly the committee, when looking at this team, has to be impressed with what they're seeing. Let's take our next call. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
This is Chelsea with Low Law Group. We received an online submission about an accident for
Chelsea,
this number.
You're on a sports show right now. You're on the air.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
Well, we must have received some incorrect information submitted then.
All right. You want to talk about Iowa sports?
Unfortunately, I can't. I'm working right now, but
Okay.
I hope you have a good evening. Sorry
you have the wrong
that.
You have the wrong number. Go Hawks. Appreciate the call. How about that? How about that call? If people don't want to talk about Iowa women's basketball, we can talk about legalities. Let's talk about it. She couldn't do that, so that's okay. Michigan fan here says go blue. I did say go blue earlier today. I'm not a Michigan fan. or Michigan Man. I see the M there. Michigan Man says go blue. As everybody here knows, the Iowa men needed a Michigan win, a knockoff of Ohio State, for Iowa to be sure that they would not be a 6 seed. That did occur, so that's good news. Skylar Mummert is here. Thank you, Skylar. Good to see you here. Real Hayden said this is a topic that's going to continue to come up. I know it's come up a lot more, even maybe more in the women's game. But he says, I'm upset with inconsistent officiating in both men's and women's basketball. That's about it. It is frustrating, and Lisa Bluter has been very outspoken about the officiating problems. The physicality is not consistent. The good news, too, though, with both the men and the women, is if we get to the NCAA tournament, you hope that some of the physicality that is being allowed, especially with Caitlin Clark, will not be allowed because they're not going to be all Big Ten officials. The men, I think the biggest thing that I have to, the bone that I have to pick about the men's game this year, Hayden, is exactly what you just said, the inconsistency. We saw Iowa get hosed in the Rutgers game, despite the fact that I don't believe Iowa deserved to win that game. You could also argue that Rutgers didn't deserve to win that game, but they did not deserve to lose the way they lost. And Iowa, of course, the late foul called on Keegan Murray on I don't even know what the call was. Was it a hand check? It was the worst call I've ever seen, about 30 feet from the basket. Sealed the deal. And then the traveling that was missed at Penn State. And I understand you can nitpick officiating, but there is that Rutgers game, a perfect example. There is such a problem with inconsistency right now. And that's what coaches want. They want consistency on the court. We've heard that from Coach Gary Close. And I do believe, I agree with you, Hayden, this is a problem. And I don't know how you fix it, because, I mean, if these are the best guys you have and they're not doing very well at their job, what are you going to do? I mean, you're just going to fire everybody and hire a new group of Big Ten officials. It's certainly something to look at during the offseason, though. I agree. And hopefully during the tournament, things will get better. No Name says Ohio State lost to Michigan. I think they are now an 8 seed in the Big Dance. Are you talking about Ohio State? I think you're talking about the men. Yeah, Ohio State has slid. I mean, the loss at home to Nebraska, you lose at home to Michigan, and you lose at home to Iowa. So, yeah, Ohio State's on a slide right now. They need to recover. All these teams have a chance now. They got the Big Ten tournament. Even if you're not focused, if you're as a fan, you just really don't take much of an interest in conference tournaments, which I don't understand that at all. I've never understood people that love Iowa or love the Big Ten or have a favorite team, and they don't care about conference championships. I love the Big Ten tournament, even though Iowa doesn't win in the Big Ten tournament. I'm talking about the men specifically. But Ohio State's one of those teams that has an opportunity now, really needs to utilize this opportunity to win in the Big Ten tournament and get back on track, even if your focus is the NCAAs. Real Hayden brings up that the Iowa women have not lost since February 14th to Maryland. How about that? Kells Bells. Kelly, good to see you here. Thank you for hopping on with us. Nicholas is here as well. Thank you, sir. Bud. Good comment here about Gabby Marshall. Bud says, Gabby does not get enough credit for her defense. She generally doesn't score a lot, but she's getting 30-plus minutes a game because of her defense. And that's absolutely the case. You could say the same thing on the men's side about Tony Perkins, although Tony has started to score a bit more. And Gabby can make threes. We've seen her knock down the outside shot. But she's a little bulldog. You know, she's not the fastest, not the quickest, not the most athletic, certainly not the biggest. But she does play good, sound, fundamental defense. She's a fighter, and that's what's leading these teams. You've got the star power in guys like Keegan Murray and girls like Caitlin Clark, Monica Sonano, etc. But right now on both teams, the role players of both teams are playing so well that despite maybe the firepower throughout 1 through 5 in the starting lineup, you just have really a solid group of 9 to 10 players on each of these teams, and it's just kind of the perfect storm, and you just hope that consistency can continue, because it's happening right now. We've seen it over a series of games with both teams. Ray, it's a different men's team tonight versus the Illini than the game in December. You are right about that. And let's remember, Keegan Murray was not healthy in that game back in December against the Illini. He was not healthy at all. I do believe he played. I'd have to look back, but I believe that was the game right after the Purdue loss. He did play. And he was not healthy at all. He was not healthy when he came here to Ames to play Iowa State. So you're right, it's going to be a different team. Tony Perkins played really well in that game, though, Ray. Let's not forget, Perkins had one of his best games of his career in that game. He's rounding back into form. Tony struggled much of the Big Ten season, but he started off hot, and it looks like he's ending hot. But Chris Murray's absolutely improved. I thought about this the other day. I'd love to look back at Chris Murray's tape from November and December, compare it to these last few games in February and March, because I think that's the biggest difference. Chris Murray's on a different level right now, and it creates a much higher ceiling for this team. Kelly says, did they award a tournament MVP? I'd have to think it was Caitlin Clark. I don't have that information. I jumped on as soon as I physically could. So perhaps somebody can provide that information. But my guess is it was Caitlin Clark, and deservedly so. But you could also make the claim that it should have been Monica or Kate Martin. Probably not Kate, but what Kate did against Northwestern and today against Indiana was huge. It was absolutely huge. The Real Hayden says, prayers to the Winterset and Sheridan communities. Absolutely. Tornado in Norwalk. Good to hear you're okay. Did not know you are in Norwalk, Hayden. Thank you for updating us on Norwalk. Yes, we were actually in Des Moines yesterday when the storms hit the area and the sirens were going off, and did get word that there was the large and destructive tornado as they termed it. And boy, that was accurate, because 6 people have been said to have died in that tornado in Winterset. And so thankful to hear that everybody there in Norwalk is okay. A lot of damage though, so certainly thoughts go out to everybody in the community. Because just a terrible thing, and you don't expect that in early March, but we do live in Iowa, and certainly keeps things in perspective. Kelly, there was some flopping for IU in this game. You're absolutely right on that. Doug, I actually think the women's game is called better than the men's game. Today was not good for the Zebras. I think that's natural to happen, Doug, because, and I'm not saying it's not a physical game, but I think a lot more physicality is allowed in the men's game, which creates more controversy at times. But again, I think there's a lot of physicality that's undeserved that's allowed for Caitlin Clark, and that's unfortunate. Kelly says no Patrick McCaffrey tonight. Is this breaking news? I didn't hear that officially. Let me just see if I can confirm that. I'm assuming that you just heard this, Kelly. Yeah, I did just see this. So, thank you for this alert, Kelly. According to the University of Iowa, Iowa forward Patrick McCaffrey will not play in tonight's game due to a non-COVID illness and a hip injury. And Patrick actually tweeted following that announcement. Patrick tweeted, good news, bad news situation. The bad news is I cannot play tonight. The good news is now I can live tweet the game. Okay. Let's hope we get Patrick back. Let's hope you get Patrick back for, hopefully it's a double bye. You can win tonight. You're not going to play till Friday. They need to get him healthy. He is a key cog for this team. So hopefully they can get him back, because to lose him at this time in the season would be really bad. And I wonder if Fran regrets playing him against Michigan. Now, he did play a decent amount of minutes in that game, but Chris Murray played so well. They need him moving. If they beat Illinois on the road without Patrick McCaffrey, boy, all bets are off on this team, folks, if that happens. We haven't talked about wrestling as much. Doug, thank you for this. Alex Marinelli, his 4th straight Big Ten championship. I know the team struggled through a good portion of the weekend, but some great individual performances, and the resilience from Tom Brand's kids is, as always, great to see. Ray says that Clark did get the MVP. No surprise there that Clark got the MVP. Ray says, too, that Kate Martin did not even make the all-tourney team. If that's the case, that's a rotten shame. Now, there are a lot of great players. I mean, Pat Byrne, Indiana, is a perfect example. I don't know what Naz Hellman did for Michigan yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever they lost. But Kate Martin played her tail off in multiple facets of the game, and that's unfortunate if she didn't. But the bottom line is, this is a team sport, and I think Kate Martin absolutely should hold her head high, because she had a big to do with why Iowa was able to get this victory, get these 3 victories, and win this championship. All right. This is a good question, and I know we're talking women's hoops, but Kelly brings it up. She says, explain why Chris Murray does not start when another starter is out. That's a great question. I don't think there has been any announcement about the starters today, Kelly. I'll say this. The Northwestern game when Patrick sat, that was senior night. I know Connor has an opportunity to return next year. I think he will, for the record. I don't have any inside information on that. My guess is that he will. But I wonder if the fact that it was senior night had something to do with why Connor McCaffrey was started. So I'm not saying maybe Connor will start again tonight. And if that happens, that happens. Connor's playing very well, Kelly. Let's give him some credit here. Connor is playing very well. He's not giving you what Chris Murray is going to give you offensively, but Connor defensively is doing great things. He's starting to knock down the 3-point shot, which is huge. I don't have a problem with Connor starting. I think he's almost positionless right now. He's playing great interior defense. He is another guy that I think we've underappreciated. His career has kind of been a roller coaster from the fans' perspective because you love him, you hate him. I love Connor McCaffrey because of what he brings in the defensive end, and he doesn't turn the ball over. Chris Murray could start tonight. I would not be shocked to see him start tonight. I think it'd be deserved. I'm not going to throw a fit if Connor McCaffrey starts tonight, though, because of what he's bringing. And Doug makes a good point. Sometimes guys are better coming in, with that second unit, and perhaps that's the case with Chris Murray. Now, we won't know that unless we see him start at some point. But I think maybe I'm speculating. Perhaps what Fran says or looks at during this, decision making is, hey, we've got Chris coming off the bench. We've got, Aaron Eulis coming off the bench, Joe Toussaint coming off the bench. If we start Chris and now Connor McCaffrey's on the bench, so who's our next unit? We've got Aaron, and I know you're not necessarily bring them all in at once. Aaron Eulis, Joe Toussaint, Connor McCaffrey. I mean, who's bringing in offense off the bench? I mean, you're just bringing in defensive-minded players at that point. That would be what I would say is I think my guess is Fran really wants to know, hey, I can turn to somebody on the bench for offense. And he doesn't often do the hockey lineup changes where he's basically subbing 5 in and 5 out. I think that's more often than not a bad decision, and he doesn't do it very often, which is good in my belief. But I think that's probably part of the issue. Now, Doug did bring up Sanford. I did forget about Peyton, but Peyton didn't play against Michigan. I think he'll play tonight. I know Fran made a comment about that the other day, that he was disappointed that he didn't play Peyton Sanford. So he will play today, but Peyton hasn't always been real consistent offensively either as a freshman. So we'll see. As Coach Close always brings up, it's more important the number of minutes that your guys get as opposed to who's starting and who's not starting. I think there is something to be said for where you play and where you start. We've seen that with Jordan Bohannon being slid to the 1 and Tony coming in at the 2. But the bottom line is whoever starts tonight, this whole team right now is playing well. And so, whoever gets the minutes is whoever gets the minutes. It'll be based on how they're playing. But Illinois is one of the toughest places to play. I brought this up the other night. The game at Illinois from 2 years ago, it was the last game before college basketball shut down. So if you remember this game 2 years ago, they played at Illinois. They were in almost the same scenario. They win, they get a double bye. They lose, they don't. They play Illinois close on the road. They fall down by double figures towards the end. They climb back to within 2. They have a chance to tie the game. And it's a block shot. Kofi Coburn blocks the shot of Luka Garza, and Iowa falls short. Everything shut down because of COVID after that. Last year they went to Illinois. There was no crowd. It's just crazy to think about this. Things have almost come full circle. They're back here. They've got another chance at winning in Champaign and getting a double bye, and it's just kind of a cool scenario right now. Okay. Just reading through, making sure I'm not missing any of the comments here before we take off until the postgame show. I want to let everybody know Iowa basketball postgame show tonight will feature another former Hawkeye star, former Iowa basketball star, James Moses. James Moses will be on the show. How about that? That's going to be a fun show. James Moses and of course, Coach Gary Close. I've never met James Moses a day in my life. I know he was coaching high school ball for a while in Eastern Iowa. I'm anxious to hear what he's doing now and certainly get his perspective on Iowa basketball. A reminder that if you want to donate to this channel, please see the description below. There's a link to donate in the description below. If you want to donate to this channel, it's always appreciated. And certainly that helps the channel grow and helps me produce more content for you and helps our post-game shows continue. So we'll be back. I will be back with Coach Gary Close tonight following Iowa and Illinois. A reminder that Iowa, Illinois tonight, 6:30 p.m. So in about 45 minutes or so, the Hawks and the Illini from Champaign. So we'll be back live with you following the game with Coach Gary Close and James Moses. Appreciate everybody hanging out for the last half hour or so. We will talk to you in about 3 hours.